Right, everybody, this morning we are looking at how to become a landlord, our top tips on how to build a portfolio of 5 or more lets. A masterclass today, Jim. How are you?
Absolutely brilliant, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I'd put this together. So
Yeah.
how to become a landlord? Our top tips to build a portfolio of 5 or more buy-to-lets. I mean, buy-to-let's not the flavour of the month just now. It's
Yeah.
whatever. But I tell you what, medium to long term, it's always a great growth sector. Property prices always go up. It's anybody out there that tells me anything different's mad. You've been living under a rock for the last 40 years because property prices have gone up exponential since then.
Yeah.
And they will never over the medium to long term actually drop. And I mean medium to long term. A lot of people, actually, investors, talk about medium to long term as in they talk about long term as in 10 years, but I always look at long term in 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
I always think 10 short term, medium term's 15, and long term's 20. Because that's how you've got to think. And I'll talk about that in a wee minute. I'm going to talk about things like books and what you should be reading and how you should be developing yourself. And also what I would think we're going to discuss, and it's no part of the show, but we will cover it. What you learn in building a buy-to-let business will pay you huge dividends in your career. And I'm no kidding. You'll probably end up finding out once you built a successful buy-to-let business on your journey that you end up becoming the CEO of your business, of the place you work, or you're one of the instrumental managers who actually become part of that. That's how it works, because all the learnings you've developed in building a buy-to-let business is actually the same learnings that you develop in actually building any business.
I was going to say that
we're going to talk about.
That makes sense, because ultimately building your buy-to-let portfolio is like running a business of your own. And well, you are the CEO of that if it's your buy-to-let portfolio. So
yeah,
do you know what I mean? You put yourself in that position already in your own venture. So you'll kind of mirror that in your professional life as well.
Absolutely. There's no surprise I went from a trainee accountant within a short period of time to becoming a financial director.
Yeah.
And that was purely down to the things I'd actually learned, failing at business previously before that, and also being successful at the buy-to-let business, and also being successful in manufacturing. So all that skill set was as a result of what I was doing here. Your failures will probably push you more to being successful than actually your successes.
Yeah.
Work that one out. So we're going to talk about, 2022 saw the highest proportion of property sales to investors since 2016, with landlords accounting for 12.2% of the sales of that year, and 19% of the overall UK housing stock. By the way, in places like Switzerland, it's 90% of the housing stock. So it just shows you we have got a long way to go as a nation and as a culture and as a country. This embedded culture that we've always got to own our house. The only reason you own your house is actually just to get on the property ladder to move to the next house. So it secures your price point of going up that scale from your starter home to your mid home to your big family home, and then back down again. It secures that place. It hedges you against everything. That's why you own a house. A house is the house that you stay in is essentially a liability. It costs you every single day in repairs and improvements and council tax and all the rest of it. And you have to pay that somewhere else anyway. It makes no difference. But it's not, your house that you live in is not really something that you develop wealth from. Only reason that you develop wealth from it is if you continually upgrade it as you go. And what I mean is you buy an old rundown property and then you make it into a beautiful property and live in it for a wee while. Then you sell it on to upgrade to a bigger property, then you sell it on. So you end up with, you start off with £100,000 property, and then you end up something like with a £600,000 property. And then by that time, you've only
renovation.
your time and effort in it. When you go down to your smaller property, classic example of what I'm doing now. I've bought my next property at £170,000. My property right now is £450,000. Yeah. So I've locked in any increases from then on, and all that money will be released, and I'll just move. And for a fact, I bought it, but I'm going to rent it. So all that money I can release.
Yeah, we already rent it.
Yeah. So you rent it just now, don't you? As part of that deal, but eventually we will move into it. the company will pay for the full refurbishment of it. I won't pay a penny because I'll be renting it. Woohoo! That's the beauty of renting.
Yeah.
No entry costs, no exit costs, and also someone else does all the repairs and improvements for you as well. And you're only paying a marginal difference of around about 5% of your income, as opposed to a homeowner. So the homeowner is only securing you on the ladder, but the homeowner, obviously, you embed yourself into a mortgage. The only reason it will have a home ownership in this country is basically because the banks want to sell you mortgages all the time to make money. That's what that's all about. Let's get back to becoming a landlord. So there's no surprise. You're surprised if you're surprised about this 19%. Well, it's not unbelievable when you look at what's happening. Interest rates have dropped since their spike after Liz Truss's disastrous mini budget. With the buy-to-let mortgages now available, some buy-to-let mortgages are still available in your own name, starting from 3.59%.
So the thing I picked up there. The thing I picked up there, Jim, obviously you're saying in your own name, so obviously not the limited company, but if you're doing it in your own name.
You pay a wee bit different because you're obviously limited company is a bit more, there's advantages tax-wise to limited company anyway, because in your own name, obviously it goes on your personal income, whereas if it's in a limited company, it's ring-fenced in a limited company and it gets corporation tax, which I think is sitting at 20% or thereabouts now. So if you're a higher rate payer and you're buying your company, it's more advantageous because you're not paying 40% on the income you're developing from your buy-to-let. You can secure it in there. Plus, you get dividend allowances as well. Just now, you get £2,000 to the end of the year. I think it's been cut to £1,000, and then the year after to £500. But so it's no great. But dividends still get taxed at 8.25%, I think it is, or 8.75. I'm not really sure. And you get no national insurance on dividends either. So if you're taking dividends out, it's more preferential for tax advantage. You'll still pay the same amount, by the way, in terms of tax. It's just that your limited company will pay it. Because the dividend isn't deductible against income of the limited company. Anyway, that's another story. That's the Wealth Creation Show at 12:30 on Monday. House prices have actually levelled off as well, giving landlords a much better shot at getting a real deal with an instantly higher yield. Also, the one for me is rents have risen sharply because of the intense competition among tenants. Now, I actually argued that the other day. I was actually, basically saying my bit about Patrick Harvey and the response to what he is, and the rents for me have actually not increased that much and over the last 15 to 20 years. They've not increased, certainly not increased more than inflation. But I actually expected that anyway, and that's okay with me. And I've not leveraged myself up to the hill. Therefore, yourself on the Wealth Creation Show, I've discussed with it, and I've got a lot of buy-to-let lifetime trackers that I have had from the very beginning, almost about 15, 20 years ago. That's how I hedge myself. That's how if anything happens like what's happening right now in the economy and also in the private sector market and the legislation changes, that I'm hedged against that for that very reason.
Yeah, I think that to say rents have risen sharply is maybe a wee bit, I don't know. I mean, in certain areas, obviously we can't deny rents have risen and things, but I think in the general scope of things, it's not a great increase. And where they have increased, we've spoke about before, Jim, that it's kind of just realigned itself to where it was because we had a wee bit of dip a few years back. So,
well, rents have increased in the market, which is the student market, and just so happens that's now exempt.
Yeah.
And that was the market. It was used to castigate landlords and say the increases of rents are going far too high, so we're going to minimise it. It's like the people that you're minimising it now on is the people that are actually, it's not going far too high. It's the student market. It was far too high, and they've actually exempted that market from the legislation. How crazy is that? Stupidity at its best. There's a minister, Patrick Harvey, has no macroeconomic capability. He doesn't understand the bigger picture involved in that. He maybe sees the minute detail of if we change this or change that, but he doesn't understand how that fits into this commercial jigsaw about how the world works. He has no idea.
Yeah, I would agree.
So many existing landlords are taking the opportunity to expand the portfolios again, and many are actually selling off because obviously they've had enough. They're long in the tooth. They've had enough, and quite rightly, I was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I said, "Oh God, I'm selling off. It's like it's time to downsize." And then I woke up one day and went, "Are you mad? Are you mad? Come on, are you mad? You're selling off." It's like chopping down the tree that bears the fruit, and it's the tree that you can pass on to your generations, to the generational wealth, to your children. and it'll still bear fruit for them as well.
That's interesting for other landlords as well, Jim, I think, because it'll come into everybody's thought process, like, maybe it's time. And like you say, even yourself, you come up to that question. But luckily, you obviously kind of had an epiphany overnight. Yeah.
What are you going to do with the money? Look at it that way.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? Oh, just sell it all off. Oh, right, great. I've got millions. It's like, I'm not going to spend all that. I'll give a lot of it away. That's fine. But I could do that and I could still maintain the trees that bear the fruit and actually give a proportion of that away anyway. So it's better to actually have that in the farmer mentality. We'll talk about that in a minute. The farmer mentality of you plant the seed, you nurture the seed, you grow the seed, and the tree sprouts and you harvest the fruit. That's the farmer mentality. Yeah. And then what you do is you plant the seed again from the one that had gone before. So you put some of the fruit back into the ground with the seeds, so you don't eat that fruit. You put that back in. It just so happens I put the most of the fruit back in, and then I let it grow again into other trees. So then the next minute I've got an orchard. And that's astronomical in terms of how much comes in that way.
The thing is, if you do the nurture thing and like the feed the baby that we speak about and things, to start with, it's a slow process to start with, and then it starts to build momentum. But it takes a few years to get that, and I think people have to remember to keep their focus in order to reach their goals. And we're going to talk about goals in a wee while.
Yeah, if anybody's listen, guys, on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, all these different platforms we're streaming live on now. If you get a chance, please share this or please comment, please tag people in it as well. There's a golden opportunity to share this with everybody else. It is a really, I'll genuinely, it's a distilled masterclass in what I've actually done about how to become a landlord and the top tips to build your portfolio of 5 or more buy-to-let properties. So there's plenty to learn from raising finance to having the right people around you, avoiding classic mistakes as well, and picking up perfect rental property. But don't worry, we're sharing everything you read right now on this show, and your first 5 rental properties and beyond. So this is the one I always talk about now is, God, it's like set your goals and make a plan. It's like flipping heck, I've got to do some work. Absolutely.
It's important to do that.
Absolutely. I've got to do some work. Guess what you do every day at your work with your boss? You're made to do some work. A lot of it you probably don't want to do anyway. Wouldn't it be great if you actually put some of that time and effort, not the same time and effort, but outside of your hours, the time that you'll otherwise sit and watch the telly, forget Love Island, there's an hour of your life back. There's an hour every single day or whatever it is. I don't know what it does, but I've got enough shit going on in my life without watching somebody else's life. That's the reality for me. But an hour a day you can get back. That's 365 hours a year. Divide that by 24. That's 100 or more days, maybe about 150 days, which is half of the year back in your life. Is it? You're joking. It can't be that, surely. Half of the year back in your life. 24 divided by 24. I don't know. I can't imagine.
Well, what was that? 365.
Maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I thought for a minute you were actually getting half a year back by watching Love Island.
365.
Get half a year back mentally.
365 divided by 24. That's 15.
15 days. So there's 15 days of your life right back right now, just because you stopped watching that rubbish or any other rubbish associated with that. I know it's only on for a certain season. You'll get some people asking that and saying it's only on for a certain amount of time. You've always got somebody that wants to have a go. Some people just want to see the world burn.
Yeah,
that's it. They don't care about anything else. They just want to see the world burn. These are the people you've got to stay away from, especially whatever you're doing in your career and your buy-to-let business and your whole life. Stay away from these people. You maybe love them because they might be part of your family, but stay away from them. They're not good for your brain. I talked about this yesterday to the team, the sales team. I said, we all exercise, and some of us go to the gym because it's the start of the year and all the rest of it. But when was the last time you actually exercised your muscle in their brain? It's called your brain. That is a muscle. When was the last time you exercised that muscle? By reading the right books, by listening to the right podcasts. Because if you want to become an Olympic athlete, you'll be out running every single day. If you want to understand how to build a buy-to-let portfolio, you have to learn almost every single day. This is a degree course, effectively, over a 5-year period that you should be doing. That's what I did. And I tell you what, I invested a lot of money in my education for my financial well-being, and I still do today. but the dividends it pays me at the end of it is astronomical in comparison. Literally, I could go and sit on a beach for the rest of my life and still earn money.
Yeah.
Probably more than I actually earn actually getting involved. So that tells me
you enjoy it too much.
That tells me stop getting involved. stop dabbling. You're losing money because you're getting involved now. It's like, so, and I really mean that jokingly, but seriously, it's true, like sometimes you start to tinker with something even though it doesn't need it. So leave it alone if it's working. If you're bored and you're making money, boring pays well, go and do something else that excites you. Don't tinker what works for now. Don't tinker with that. Just go and do something else, add something else on, get an improvement, but don't touch the system that you've generated, that you've developed. It develops that wealth. You want to talk about setting goals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, setting goals and things like you say, some people might think, God, I've got to set a goal and keep on track. But to start and stay on track, it's essential to have a vision that pulls you forward. And like you say, Jim, you were speaking to your team. We've all done it within our teams at work. We've done this setting goals thing, and they're not just professional goals, but personal goals as well in your personal life and where you want to be. And I think it. Whether it's early retirement, obviously, if it's financial security for your family, if it's that beach house, or do you know what I mean? The dream car in the drive, although obviously we're not a big fan of spending too much on expensive cars when you're trying to build, obviously, an empire. But yeah, I think there's certain ways to start off with your goals and how to reach them. So we've got some tips here, obviously. I think, firstly, write down whether it's a 1 or 5 or 10 or 20-year plan, whether it's short, medium, or long-term goals, write them down and have them somewhere so that you've got them to refer back to, with the reward of meeting each of them at the end. And like I say, put it up somewhere where you can see it, whether it's on the fridge. I've got mine next to my desk in my office. Put it on your screen as your wallpaper on your computer. And have it like there's a vision.
That's how I had mine. I had mine written on a card that I kept in my pocket all the time.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it was literally the number of properties I was actually going to buy and how I'd reinvest the money. It kept me completely focused on reinvesting every single penny I had. Every single penny. It didn't matter if I had a spare penny or a spare pound lying about, I would put it in my buy-to-let business. Everything went in there. We put our money in, and then we decided what we had left to live on. That's it. Every single time. I disciplined myself every single time because I had the long-term vision in my mind. And people say luck. It's like luck is just labour under correct knowledge. That's what it stands for. Right place, right time. That's because you've prepared for the opportunity to appear in front of you, and that's how right place, right time comes along. Because the right time has always been there, and the right place has always been there. It's just that you weren't ready for it, and that's why you missed it. And it happens every single time. So writing down and clarifying, and actually the 1, 5, 10, and 20-year goals, it doesn't need to be anything. 20 years for me was like, well, it was for me, it's like I want to make $1 million before I retire at 65-year-old. That's it, really, in essence. And then I wrote down how many properties I could buy over a 40-year period, and it came to 100,000. Based on a spreadsheet. Obviously, it's never 100,000. It's not even anywhere near that. It's minuscule. But do you see how that goal was so big? But I still had a plan towards that goal. I still had it all written down about how that's going to happen, how that's going to work, and how that's going to exponentially climb. And then what happens, it gets in the way, as life gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's the reason why Robert Kiyosaki developed the cash flow game. The cash flow game is effectively just a variation, an extended variation on Monopoly. And now Monopoly was always my game when I was younger. It was and it still is my go-to game right now. Monopoly is the one, because Monopoly taught me from a very, very early age, like the person that has the most property in most hotels makes the most money. And your object to the exercise of Monopoly is to buy as much property as possible and get as many hotels as possible, as quick as possible, to develop an income, to the point where you're almost got no money at all in the bank in Monopoly, and you take risks. And that's how you win Monopoly. I've come back from the brink where I've been almost bankrupt, and Scott's sitting over the table for me, my son, with piles of money. and I'm like, I'm just about to give up. I'm saying, look, it's yours, Scott. And he goes, no, I want to beat you. Well, you do you? right, let's work this out then. And the next minute, I just basically wipe him out after the next 2 hours. because it's a technique that you've developed over the years on how to do things, but it is actually very similar to how you do buy to let in the real world. And you know, I'll talk about books and all the rest then where that all comes in. But vision board is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about books right now. Let's fast track.
Books is the next thing we're going to pick up on anyway.
Fast tracking your learning by reading books from successful property investors. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've not got it with me. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad is written by Robert Kiyosaki, but it isn't about Robert Kiyosaki. It's really about Keith Cunningham. So Keith Cunningham was Rich Dad, and his real dad, Kiyosaki's dad, was, you know, the poor dad. And Kiyosaki talks about that interaction with that. So I've had time with Keith Cunningham. He's very, very Keys to the Vault he actually runs, and I've read his book as well. I've been in his course in Paris. See how I invest in my time, I invest my time in the right people. This guy knows how to develop wealth and run businesses. He knows how to develop. I mean, you know, the thing that sticks out for me with Rich Dad, which is Keith Cunningham, is he has a car wash business right next to another car wash business, and his entry level price is the premium price for the one next door. That tells me everything about masterclass in business. He actually, for washing a car, he can make about $60 out of one person getting their car washed.
It's crazy.
How is that possible? And that's the people you want to learn from. How did you do that? And then you're not going to use that, but the thing is the knowledge to develop and how to do that is the most important thing. One of the other ones is Think and Grow Rich. Got to be the masterclass. This is about compounding wealth. You will never sleep. You will never sleep again after reading this. I woke up in the middle of the night, actually about 2 o'clock in the morning, and thought, holy shit, really? Compounding wealth. And actually, I'd worked it out on the spreadsheet. So, needless to say, Think and Grow Rich is yellow page. You know, it's basically yellow and old and antiquated. Mm-hmm. And I actually bought that when the telephone numbers were 0333. There was no 1. So it shows you how long ago that was.
I've got the newer version, and it's not.
Look at all the bookmarks. Look at all the bookmarks where I've bookmarked, where I go back to on my go-to. I've read this about 20 or 30 times. Yeah, definitely. And it is every single time I get rejuvenated, I get renewed in terms of what I want to do. Richard Branson, The Virgin Way. As a buy-to-let landlord, you are not in the business of buy-to-lets. You're in the customer service business. Mm-hmm. Anybody could buy buy-to-lets. Anybody could buy property. And that's a developed wealth, you know, to get the numbers right. That's another masterclass. But the most important masterclass is customer service. The Virgin Way by Richard Branson is a masterclass in customer service. This is how Virgin was built so successfully.
Just got to say, look what he's done with Virgin.
Oh, God.
The customer service level.
It's a fantastic book. Again, a really good one. A friend of mine years ago had 300 buy-to-lets, Andy Shaw. Now Andy got wiped out in the credit crunch because he did one thing wrong in here, which was in here, and that's what wiped him out. And it was he lived on remortgaging his properties at 2% extra every single year. So he took 2% out of the value every single year and spent it on himself. That's a crazy idea. Yeah. So he built that problem for himself, and he got wiped out in the credit crunch in 2007 and 2008. But this allowed me to buy 6 buy-to-let properties for 40 grand, which made a 700% return on investment every single year.
And the question everybody will ask is, how did you do that?
700%. 700%. I am not kidding. 700% return on investment every single year. That's before the capital appreciation. That's comparable against the bank. 700%. And that's the book it taught me. I don't even know if you can get that book anymore, because he doesn't print it anymore. He doesn't promote it anymore. So I don't even know if you can get this book anymore. But I tell you what, this was a great book for that reason. And equally as well, Rob Moore. Rob Moore was a great. I went to one seminar with Rob Moore for a weekend in Glasgow in 2008. That's when he was first starting. And we had a wee chat, and we had some ideas and some strategies, and I used that as well. And that combined with this and got me these buy-to-lets. And that started me, and that was about 2010. We will talk about that on the Wealth Creation Show, actually. Because I've not got to 2010 yet. The next one, the final one for me, but this is an upsell. You'll very rarely get this book, by the way, because it is Grant Cardone Real Estate Investing. So it's a great book. It tells you why you should be in, what type of property you should be investing in, and all the rest of it. But really, it's an upsell for his fund. It's an upsell for his fund all the way through. If you know what a funnel is, a sales funnel, this is it. Because basically, it primes you all the way through that you should be investing. Real estate investing is a waste of time for your efforts, but you should invest with him, and he could do all the work for you, and you'll still make money. That's what this is all about. But he gives you a lot of good tips in here. So just watch. You don't get sucked into the Cardone machine, because then the Cardone machine will just suck all the money out of you. Because the object of the exercise for Grant Cardone is to get all the money in your pocket into his pocket.
Yeah.
And I'll not mention what that is. in case of liability issues, in case somebody goes, wait a minute, you just called Grant Cardone, and I'm not going to do that.
No.
But I tell you what, these guys have a lot of good knowledge about how to do that. Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, straight line sales technique as well is a great one. See what I mean about this, about your career. When you're learning things like this, the Virgin Way, masterclass in customer service, you're also learning something for your career and something for the business you operate in. This is how your education level, this is like you going to university, but you're actually doing it in your own time. You're reading books, listening to podcasts, and you're actually learning. And this is like you developing your knowledge and your experience in order to actually run the business you work in today. You could be on the shop floor right now, and I'll guarantee you within 5 years of reading books like this, every single day, you will be running that division, or you'll be running the company as an entirety. Even though you think you're dumb as shit, you could be running the company.
That makes sense, because basically what you're doing in a classroom and studying is learning for somebody that's teaching the class. And
absolutely. Think and Grow Rich, Virgin Way, real estate investing for there, and then money for nothing, property for free. Simon Zushi's as well as good. Property Magic, again, Property Magic is a sales funnel for Simon, but Simon is a multi-millionaire. He sold his company off to an investment house in America because it's a training organization. He's got thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of followers. So that's what they bought it for, the data and the information and the wealth that they can develop from his training company. So he made an absolute fortune. But Simon's got about a 10 million portfolio. Yeah. He's got a Simon, because I'm no daft. I look up everybody's accounts. Yeah. So I see what they've got in terms of the investments. They're all publicly, if they're private limited companies, you can get all that access to that information online. And I know how to interpret the accounts to actually understand where it's all coming from. Because some people like myself, we've just kept the accounts as in the cost value over the years. And we've not revalued anything, so we don't bolster the balance sheet that way. I've actually started to do that from this year onwards because I need to get the banks to see that actually there's a lot of wealth in these companies. So I'm actually starting to do that, because it's not a good strategy for me then to convince a bank. It's like, well, why have you got a negative net worth? It's like, well, that's because all the property is like worth about maybe 2 or 3 million more, but I bought it when it was years and years ago. So these are other things that you learn, but you learn that from books. Property Magic, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably the best one. And as I said, we've got Think and Grow Rich as well. There's lots and lots more. I had a picture. I wonder if I've got it on here. I had a picture here of one of my libraries. You'll say, what? One of your libraries? Here it is. Here actually. One of my libraries I have, and I just pick out books every now and again. They go into my main library, which is somewhere else. But that's the store. So there you go. There, all these books.
Yeah,
you can see that. Look, Richard Branson, Losing My Virginity, Tony Robbins, Money. Oh God, I'm away on the wrong thing here. There you go. Inconsistent Ladder. See, consistency. There's a good lesson for you right now. That's what happens with consistency. Consistency allows you to climb that ladder. Inconsistency doesn't. These are all the things that motivate me. So if you zoom in there, even Oxford English Dictionary. Look, James Watt, Business for Punks, Brewdog, huge amount of lessons. Good to Great, and Built to Last, Jim Collins, great books. Tony Robbins, Mastering Money, Agency Roadmap, Who Stole the American Dream? That's network marketing. That's where I originated from, the network marketing education system. So that's how old these books are. Richard Branson again, Never Fight with a Pig, Tony Robbins, Mastery of Money. See, I've got that twice. That's how important it is. Alan Sugar, What You See. So all these different books there, and that's only the small one, the small library. I've got another library down at Caledonian House. I've got another library and another room in the house. It's like I read continuously. I listen to podcasts continuously. How do you have all the time to do that? Well, you drive in your car, which is unproductive time. You could listen to a podcast. You get up in the morning, and instead of listening to the radio, which is chewing gum for the mind, listen to a podcast that will develop your wealth and your knowledge. Diary of a CEO. Just listen to it. I'll stick it on my phone when I'm sitting in the bath, and I'll listen to it when I'm doing that. When I'm walking about, when I'm making my juice in the morning, when I juice in the morning, when I'm making all that and putting all that together, I'll listen to podcasts on these successes as well. That's what will set you free. Watching television and reality shows won't set you free. It'll set the person free that's in the reality show, but it'll not set you free. And I'll be honest and say, who was the mug watching the reality shows all the time? That's what I was like. I used to just watch television all the time. I used to watch everything. All the crap of the day. And then I thought, when somebody said it's chewing gum for the mind, Bob Proctor actually said, or Zig Ziglar, it's chewing gum for the mind. If anybody recognizes these names, chewing gum for the mind. It's like, God, I get that straight away. It doesn't enhance your wealth or your anything in your life at all. It just sucks all the money, the effort out of you, like what they want. It's the one-eyed monster. It'll suck the brain out of your head while you're sitting watching it. That's really what it is.
I have to agree, especially like Love Island and things. It's just not my kind of TV.
Yeah, but we all buy into it because it's a herd mentality. It's a herd mentality thing. It's a culture thing. It's something to talk about when we're at the work. This is why sometimes people look at you after you've been developing your knowledge and your wealth and think you've changed. It's like, you're not like us anymore. You're not like us anymore. You thank God for that. It's like. And then it's like you get stupid stories about when you start to develop wealth. And I'm going to digress here. When you start to develop wealth, people go, "I would never really want to be a millionaire." And my first response is that is, "Have you tried it lately?" Because it's pretty good. and it's stupidity at its best, where people actually tell themselves that I wouldn't want to have that. Do you play the lottery? Absolutely. So why do you play the lottery? Oh, I want to become a millionaire. Wait a minute, you just told me you wouldn't want to be, and now you're saying that you're playing the lottery. See that? How people just suit their purpose to their story. So there's in your life, there's your story, there's someone else's story, and there's the truth.
The real story.
Yeah, there's the real story. It's like the version of events. So books are really important for your successful property investors as well as developing your own experience and lifestyle. And in life itself, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus is a fantastic book. What you have to do is men just don't understand women. Because men talk Martian and women talk Venetian. And that's just how it is. But what men need to do is learn how to speak Venetian.
Yeah.
Because once you speak Venetian, you've sussed it. The world's your oyster. And that's how you can do things like that. Okay, so let's get back to this. Prioritize your buy-to-let business. If you wait for a year for that, just delayed gratification. Wait for that year. If you're going to go on a luxury holiday or buy a new car this year, forget it. Every single time I thought to myself, I can get a new car now because that was one of my goals, I used to think, I will buy another property. because genuinely, I always loved the idea of walking in and buying a car for cash.
Mm-hmm.
And just having a look at the salesman's face when he realizes, like, holy shit, this guy's buying it for cash in his car? Really? And I did do that at one point in time. But that was one of the goals I always wanted to do. But I'll tell you a lesson I learned out of that. That car sat in my garage for 3 years and I did 3,000 miles in it. What a complete waste of money.
Waste of money, yeah.
Yeah, so don't, I know you really want the car. My answer to that is go and hire the car for a couple of weeks. Spend £2,000 or £3,000 hiring it. Get it out of your system and hand it back. Save yourself a fortune. And then just go and get a basic car. Warren Buffett runs about in his Lancia or whatever it is, his Kia Ceed or something like that.
Yeah,
it's just
I think it is a Kia.
Yeah, he couldn't care less. And because he invests in Kia, he's no blooming daft.
Yeah,
it's the classic example about the Austin Rover and the British Leyland workers. They all used to drive into British Leyland and Austin Rover in the time that it was owned by the government. They always used to drive in foreign cars. and Japanese cars and everything. And it's like, and then they're bleating about how they've not got any cars to sell to anybody and how nobody wants their car. And it's like, that's because you're not driving about and promoting it. No wonder.
Yeah.
The guy talking about how he's not getting paid enough working with Austin Rover or British Leyland. I'm wanting 15%. So, all right, okay, so you're driving about in a Lancia or an Opel Manta. Really? And you think if you thought your car and your product was that worth that much, you'd be driving about in it all the time.
Yeah. I
didn't get that. I don't get that at all. So prioritize your buy-to-let business. Put these luxury holidays off for a year. You can if you realize the compounding wealth that happens just putting off a year. Look at it this way, compounding wealth. 31 days, doubling up 1 pence, or 5 million in your hand right now. Now, normally everybody would go 5 million, but everybody knows that me, and they know there's a trick to this. So they'll probably say 1 pence doubled up for 31 days. And then you realize 1 pence doubled up for 31 days is 11 million. But look at the last day it was doubled up. It went from 5.5 to 11 million. That's how starting a year earlier in a pension or a buy-to-let business will compound at the end about double the value. It blows my mind how that works. But this is if you understand the secret of compounding wealth, everything's falls into place over time.
And that's what's in Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, you just have to learn and discipline yourself and delay gratification. You've got a lasting sense of accomplishment and it beats the short-term gratification any day if you go and buy your buy-to-let. Remember, you're doing it for you as well as your kids. I'm not really doing it for me at all. I'm doing it for my kids. And people go, well, the kids will need to struggle and all the rest of it. Well, why should why should my kids and their kids and the kids after and the great grandkids need to struggle? Because they will do. And this is what my main concern is. It's funny that, but when you come, you never think about it. But and people just like, I don't want to have kids. But once you have children, it's a completely different. Your mind just completely changes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I've got to be responsible for another person. I've got to do something for them. And this is my lasting legacy I'll do for them. But remember, as with any new business, some things won't necessarily go according to plan, as it doesn't. So clearly displaying your goals will help you deal with any bumpy roads. Your goal has to be a lot bigger. You have to be a lot bigger than any obstacles. If the obstacle's bigger than your goal, you'll never do it. You'll just stop in your tracks. And it's Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. That's another really good book by Dr. Susan Jeffers. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Let's talk about Get Wise to Your Money. Richard, would you want to cover that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, there's no getting away for the fact that you'll need money to buy, obviously, your first buy-to-let property. But cash flow is always critical to the success of your business, and any business, obviously. So there is some tips and things that you could do to get started and stay solvent throughout your buy-to-let journey. Now, if you own your own home, you spoke about obviously the benefits of owning your own home, or have savings or other investments, you could release some of their value to cover whether it be the deposit, the legal fees, and renovation costs and things on your first buy-to-let, and that's how you can get started.
That's why I've just renegotiated my mortgage again for the next 2 years on a discount mortgage for my house. It's like I've got no desire to pay off 130,000. I'm only paying a discount mortgage of whatever the rate is, the variable rate, minus 3.31%.
Yeah.
So I've got no desire, because if you can make a 15% plus return on investment, why would you want to pay off 130 grand on a mortgage that you're getting use of? That, to me, that doesn't make sense to me. So it's about leveraging your position. Sorry. No,
you're fine. No, and I think a lot of people are hesitant when they think, oh, release equity. I mean, they've spent a lot of time putting into their property, and they're hesitant about releasing equity.
Yeah, here's the story. It's like, I turned around to Elaine one day and I says to Elaine, my wife, and I says, look, maybe we should actually use some of the property that we've got just now to invest, to buy more buy-to-lets. And she went, oh, what if we lose it? I was like, how are you going to lose it? It's actually invested in bricks and mortar, which we're sitting in the now. And it's in bricks and mortar the now. It's just that we're not making any money on the money we've got sitting in the house that we're in the now. And if I take the money from the house that we've got in the now and put it in a house that we're making money on, we're actually making money, and we're still going up the same proportionate amount or decreasing the same proportionate amount as we would have it in our own house.
Yeah.
Does that not make sense to you? But it's the fear factor. It's like there's an impression that you're going to actually lose all your money. It's like
people think, oh, I've worked hard, I've put all that money in, what if I lose it?
It's in my house and I'm going to release it when I retire. It's like, but it's in another house anyway. It's no going on a car. It's no depreciating asset. It's an asset that earns income for you. And at worst, you just sell it again and you release the money and pay off your mortgage again that you had in the first place. How difficult is this? It doesn't decay. It doesn't disappear. It's in an asset that appreciates the same time as the same asset you're sitting in right now as your house.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, it would be a different story if you're going to release money for your house and go and buy a car and go on holiday and things. You know what I mean? You're not going to get that money back. It's going to depreciate.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
so your ones as well. Let's go on. Let's move on. We're running short of time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like I say, obviously your home, obviously release equity, savings, etc. But you could always team up with trusted family or friends, raise funds and share the cost of going into business together. Obviously, joint ventures and things are quite a lucrative way to do that. Obviously, I mentioned their trusted family and friends. Make sure you always have legal contracts and protect yourself and respect each other, because obviously you are going into business together. It's a joint venture of money. So make sure that you're both on the same page and you have that level of trust and things. So that's a good one. You could always ask a financial advisor about mortgage lenders who will take out personal incomes into account, like obviously your personal income, like your salary and things, alongside your property's rental income.
Yeah, it's known as top slicing. So that's when they actually take into account. So most buy-to-let lenders now, in the days they used to do that with me, they used to actually say, well, how much do you earn in your own job or your own income from day to day? And we need to take that into account. But then it got to the point where they went, no, because I used to say, well, the money I earn from the buy-to-let is independent of what I earn in my job. So surely it's a self-sustaining business model. And they were like, no, but that's not how we do it now. But now they've gone back to that as well. See, they're looking at more creative ways of being able to lend you money. But now using top slicing again, which is actually using your own income as a leveraging tool. If your buy-to-let doesn't come up to the 125, 145% income level, the yield against the rental value, the rental yield. If it doesn't come up to that, they can use that as top slicing as that method, which is taking into your own personal income. I've just done it just now. I've just had to prove to the Bank of Scotland that the income I actually earn and we live on from day to day is completely independent of the buy-to-let business. But they know that. It's just it's a tick box exercise for them.
You could also, if you don't own your own home, you could buy your first one buy-to-let home by saving from the second home tax, and obviously you won't have that stamp duty because obviously you don't already own a home. And then obviously the next one is you could buy a property, renovate it, sell it on. You'll get the higher loan to value mortgage if you buy it as your home, and then profit from the tax-free. Obviously, once you've done, and you could pay zero stamp duty again, obviously, if it's your first purchase. You might even make enough to cover the deposit or more on the rental property. So that's a good way to do that as well. Know your numbers and use a spreadsheet to calculate buying costs, income projections and annual maintenance. Don't overpay. We always say this, Jim, obviously leave the bidding to homeowners and the wars between them if they're looking to pay more for a home to live in. If it's a buy-to-let, stick to your numbers. If it's not right, another property will always come along. And save your tax money from each rental payment, and build a 3-month contingency fund to cover annual maintenance and general repairs. That's a really important one. And it's also worth remembering that setting up a limited company to buy your rental properties has some advantages around mortgage interest reliefs, tax deductions, dividends and capital gains tax. So talk to an accountant first when you make your choices about the best strategy to move forward. So yeah, they're all kind of tips to be money wise in essence. Next topic we're going to talk about, Jim, is finding your niche.
Can we quickly cover that about the know your numbers? I'll just quickly share that on the screen. For people on TikTok and Instagram, you will, well, TikTok obviously won't see it, but go to the YouTube channel, 5 Properties TV, and you'll see the latest podcast on the weekly shows. We've actually just put on just now, and you'll actually be able to see this spreadsheet. But this is the screen that I usually have. It's I'll tell you what. Share screen. Here we go. So here's the spreadsheet here. You can see what I'm working on now. 39 properties at 2.7 million. So there's the numbers in there. You buy a property for 80,000. Your stamp duty is 6% now. Your deposit is 25%. Your mortgage is probably around about 6%. Your arrangement fees about 1.5 because it's usually about £1,000, so I'll put 900. Your rent's probably 550. Your occupancy rate is high. So there you go. You've got your yields there. See that? Your gross yield 7.7%. But if you borrow the bank's money at 75% loan to value, then your gross yield actually with the mortgage goes up to 11.4%. So it actually leverages your position by 4%. Then you've got your overheads, which could be 30% of your top line rent, which is about right because it covers things like repairs and improvements and interest, and then it leaves you a net profit per annum. Now in this one, obviously the numbers on the right here, it comes back with a net return on your deposit. The money you've put in is 3.7%. Nothing to write home about. You may as well just keep your money in the bank and not bother. But then you can change that to 60,000 purchase price, and then that suddenly jumps up to 9.6%. That's when you think, okay, I need to buy a property at 60 grand. It will have a rental value of 550 to make these numbers work. Yeah. That's how you do that.
That's where you get your figure to stick to.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want a copy of that spreadsheet, you need to email Richard. So richard.cook@fiveproperties.co.uk. richard.cook@fiveproperties.co.uk, and then he'll talk to you and give you an insight into that spreadsheet, because it is a ready reckoner every single time. Yeah, I've used that all the time over the years. That's all I've ever used.
Yeah, that's a really good tool, and a lot of landlords and investors who have that from us have said it's been a really good benefit to them. But yeah, moving on to the next topic, finding your niche. And obviously starting as a landlord is definitely an education, and you could smooth out the learning curve by specialising in one marketplace, at least for now anyway. When you start out, kind of find your niche. So start in an area that you know, maybe possibly near your home. You'll build on your confidence faster, and you can befriend local maybe agents and things, build up good relationships to get the call when suitable homes come up in those areas. Always build a good relationship with your local agent, especially if they've got good local knowledge. Choose your target tenant, research demands in the neighbourhoods and things that you're buying in, and then decide whether you want to provide home for maybe if it's single people, if it's couples, if it's families, professional people that are sharing, or if it's students. I mean, depending on what area you're in.
So my target tenant at the beginning was actually people on benefits. It was a system I understood completely because it's systematized and it paid money every single time into your bank, and it was a market that the government wasn't assisting because they had no social housing because it was all being sold off. So I just basically, you know, I was probably one of the very first people who couldn't care less what income you had, as long as you had money to pay the rent. The more important things for me was, are you going to look after the property? Is your rent going to be paid on time? And are you going to be antisocial to your neighbours? And if the answer to any of these, if your answer is antisocial, then you're not getting it. If I could prove that, if there's any doubt about that, I'd still not do it. If you don't pay your rent on time, so again, referencing track record, and then also the look after the property itself. So again, referencing track record, and it's visiting people's houses. It's like often they were in a house and I would get, I'm just going to pop round and have a wee quick word with you about your application for this property, just as a final reference for me. And then I would go, oh, do you mind if I have a look round your house? Because often it was a council house they came out of, because they didn't like living with the council, but they loved living with me and as a private landlord. Work that one out, eh? But then I provided a service more than what the council could ever do. And I was on point all the time, and I repaired everything every single time. And the council took years. The council still takes years to do anything. So that was the service that I actually stuck to, the service level I stuck to. And I got referrals from everybody else, and that kept my occupancy rate high all the time. So that was key and instrumental in that process. So single families, you know, it doesn't matter. Single family, whoever fitted the property and whoever fitted these three criteria after extreme, really extreme referencing. Somebody said to me one day, "You're not allowed to ask people that," and I went, "Oh, that'll be right." I says, "I'm giving them a 50 or 60,000 pound house, and they're paying me 300 quid deposit. You're having a laugh. I'll be asking them anything I want." And if they don't have the right answers, or they play funny buggers with me, they ain't getting a property from me.
There's a lot of people who think it's so you can't ask that, or they don't want to be really transparent about their situation. It's like, well, you've just
There's
kind of
no
taken
law that says you can't ask that. It's just bullshit. It's the liberals out there have given you that impression that, oh, you can't ask that. It's like, this sort of stupid way of thinking. It's like, of course you can't ask that.
Of course. But yeah, obviously, find your target tenant, like you say, Jim, whether it's single families, professionals. And you've had, there's a stigma with, there is a stigma against benefit tenants. You've had benefit tenants, some for a lot of years actually, and they're really good tenants. Obviously, they were referenced properly and things
It's the
like that.
mentality of benefit tenants as well. I'm sometimes appalled at how people think. It's like when I used to sit in tenant and resident and tenant association meetings. This is a private landlord being at these meetings because I felt that I need to be engaged with people and what was happening and what was going on in the community. When you sit with these people, some of them often used to say to me, well, my landlord's this and my landlord's not doing that. And I'm like, and it's like, and I'll go, well, tell them you need to get it fixed then. And they said, yeah, but, it's like, I don't really pay rent was the next words. It's like, what do you mean you don't pay rent? It's like, because it comes from the government and under housing benefit. It's like, what do you mean you don't pay rent? Of course you do. It's just that the government assists you to pay it, but you're paying rent like everybody else, so you're entitled to the same service and the same amenities as everybody else. It doesn't make you a second-class citizen. And genuinely, that's what I used to say to people. It's all these years ago, and I still say that today. It does not make you a second-class citizen, or someday, it should be pushed to the side. You pay rent like everybody else. It's just that you get a government assistance to it. So it's important to understand that, and that's why it doesn't bother me at all. It's the right person for the right property. It's got nothing to do with anything like that.
Definitely. Back to obviously finding your niche. So stay away from the most expensive streets, as you'll be fighting with wealthy buyers and bidding wars and things which you don't want to get into. Go for the next best locations and where you'll pay a little bit less and you'll attract good tenants still. That's probably where to focus your attention. If you've got a good agent on the ground in that area, they will advise you that. Avoid major refurbishment projects until you're a wee bit more experienced. If you're just starting out, they can become money pits if you don't know what you're looking for. Look for homes that only need maybe a light sprucing up, some light decoration, maybe a slight kitchen upgrade or replacing floor covers and things. They can complete quickly and get you your property rented out, and obviously in a quicker time at less of a cost, but still at a good standard. The simplest way to success is to offer tenants what they want and what they need. Families will be looking for things like good schools and parking and durable fittings, while sharers will love contemporary design and maybe like cafes and things and transport links nearby. So think of all that. And again, if you've got a good agent, they will advise you that. Speak to your local agent about what is in demand, and you can provide homes that are popular and profitable at the same time.
Now, the most important thing is most families just want a house that's wind and watertight and nice and safe for an environment, and
safe and comfortable to live in.
They can move in it, so it's decorated, it's carpeted, and it's ready to go. It's got a nice kitchen, it's got a nice bathroom. They just want something that they don't have any hassle with. That's customer service. That's just like, I could just move into this, just move my stuff in here, and I don't need to do anything else to this. That's what they want. So give it to them. That's all you need to do. It's as simple as that. You don't need to have the most extravagant kitchen, the most extravagant bathroom, the most extravagant fixtures and fittings and all the rest of it. You just need something that's middle market that everybody likes and they can see themselves living in there and it's nice and pleasant. The neighbourhood, yeah, sometimes it could be an instrumental, but for a lot of tenants, they don't really bother about the neighbourhood because nobody really bothers. You can say every neighbourhood's got a reputation. I could tell you about that with every neighbourhood. Every street has got some sort of reputation. Yeah, and some streets have got their reputation more than others. But I've lived in some of these streets, and I tell you what, if you keep yourself to yourself, nobody bothers you. I lived in one of the most, I wouldn't say the most notorious streets in Metro, but when I lived in that street, I was basically a financial director, and I had a brand new Mercedes car outside the front. And often, if you told people before you did that, I even had my estate agent before actually saying, "Are you sure you want to live in that street?" It's like, you have a standing in the community. What? What do you mean you've got a stand? Are you telling me you're a snob? That's effectively what I felt like saying that to him. And genuinely, out of respect for this person over the years that I had, I just said to them, I'll take the weekend to think about it, about buying this house then. And I knew fine I was buying it anyway, because it suited my model and what I was doing. That was the one that we lived in that street.
Yeah,
you'll know that property. But that's the objection I got from somebody that I respected. They actually said, are you sure you really want to live in that street? You're standing in the community. It's like, what do you mean stand in the community? It's like, and that's what it was. It was just basically snobbinish.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't believe that.
Let's talk about creating a great team. Now, in the words of Richard Branson, as you spoke about, Jim, obviously success comes from delegating and having a good team around you. It's the same as in any business, as it is with your buy-to-let, and you'll run yourself ragged if you try and do everything yourself. So it pays to surround yourself with people, with reliable people, especially, I think. And there are many different aspects to owning rental homes, and you'll need as a minimum your good your gas certificates and good gas contractors in place. An inventory clerk who could do a comprehensive inventory, someone to do like your odd jobs, like a handyman, and someone who will look after your tax and financial advice. These are all key important parts of a buy-to-let business. You have to have someone who could handle view-ins and check-ins and check-outs and mid-tenancy inspections, emergency call-outs, somebody who you're going to have who's going to be there at these hours and deal with things out hours, so you're not going to have to do that. And any questions of repair requests from your tenant and somebody to deal with that. Now, Jim, obviously you've built a successful lettings company that we obviously manage your entire portfolio, and have a lot of the time you're not even involved in the daily running. I do all that for you for the most part in terms of maintenance and the turnaround of things on a daily basis. You would never be able to do all that and do what else you do. There wouldn't be enough time.
Never ever. The key to success is actually to get people smarter than you, or get people to do the work that they could do, and delegate as much as possible, and concentrate on the things that your expertise is in. There's where Richard Branson's classic example of that he built his empire based on that principle. So what you're going to learn from all his book about losing my virginity, about screw it, let's do it, about the Virgin Way, and all these different books that he's done, he's put down his knowledge and wealth of expertise in there. And so what you're going to learn from someone who was a dyslexic at school and never really amounted to anything, but actually built this billionaire empire, which was Virgin. So there's huge amounts of things that you can learn from these people. So this is why it's so important to have this group around you of people in the beginning. And Mark Taylor was that person in the beginning, the contractor. He's no longer here, Mark, I'm afraid. But Mark actually helped me build that. And
you learn a lot from him. Yeah.
My bookkeeper Elaine's been with me since the very beginning.
Yeah.
So she's been with me since the very beginning of my first buy-to-lets, actually doing all my books for me. And all my day-to-day stuff. My daughter actually helps out as well now, and then we've obviously got the team that actually does all the property management stuff. So again, that's all, and this is all built over the evolution of this business, and how I've created it. And it's just when you get to a point where you think it's going to be bigger, then you think, okay, I'm going to have to delegate some of the stuff that we do day to day repetitively, and get someone else in to do that. By the way, people on TikTok, just hang about, and I'll go back after the show and I'll keep a live broadcast, and I'll just keep continuing. I'll answer some of your questions, because there is people on there asking questions, and I don't want to slow the show down, Richard.
I'll just finish speaking about creating a great team, and we could break there for the recording. So in addition to that, obviously have a mortgage advisor who specialises in buy-to-let. It's good to have that contact. Also as an accountant who could advise you on the best ways to stay tax efficient as well.
Yeah.
So it's all about knowing the right people in the right specialising specialist situations. A good managing agent, like we just covered here, Jim, will have a circle of proven trustworthy contractors. Who can ensure your buy-to-let and your tenant are looked after properly, and leaving you free to concentrate on finding your next property, or simply just enjoy your life and your time.
Trusted contractors. when you begin to meet contractors for the first time, yes, they can be trusted, but over a period of time, they get bigger because they get endorsed for everybody else. This is what happens. And then they go and do other things for other people. But then now and again, I deliberately audit my contractors that work on my properties now and again to make sure that the prices are still keen and still right, and also they're doing the job that they say they're doing. So we do get audit checks, and we do sign-off checks to make sure every single job has been done correctly before we actually pay them. And often, well, not often, now and again, you'll catch them out when they've actually just they maybe sent. See, the difficulty about the contractors is when they start off as themselves for the first time, they'll do everything for you perfectly.
Yeah.
By the way, that's finished for that's finished on Instagram for the upload and everything else. But we're still live on Instagram right now, so that's the good thing. Anyway, so about the contractors, when they start off for the first time, like any business, they're fully immersed into it and they do all the work for you, the individual. A bit like myself, when I first started being an accountant, and also when I first started being a real estate agent and a letting agent, I did a lot of it myself, and everybody always wanted me to do the job. But as you grow over a period of time, you're either going to have to put your prices up if they're wanting you every single time, or you're going to have to bring other people in to replicate you. And that's where the difficulty lies. It's getting people to replicate you, getting that skill, because nobody's as excited and enthused as you are, because you're the owner. That's always the case. That is always the case. So it's actually getting people to replicate you, and that's what happens with contractors. They get more people in, and then they send somebody else to do the job. I mean, I just caught somebody else the other day doing historical works on Caledonian House on the front of it. And then I found out it wasn't him doing the job. He'd sent a contractor, one of his subbies, after me going down and saying, well, there's the bill. And I went, whoa, wait a minute, that's not even finished yet. And there was a bit in the corner, there was a bit round the side, there was a bit in the front, and then there was a question about something else. And then anybody else probably would have paid that. But I went back and checked it all and thought, you've not done some of this. This isn't finished off properly. And then he admitted that he'd actually sent one of his employees round to do it. And I thought he was doing it. You
thought he was doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was paying him a premium. So I wasn't very chuffed about that. However, I've let him do the job. Look at Gary. Gary was, spent a wee bit more than what he was meant to, maybe about 25% more. And I was like, holy moly. It's like, how could you spend 25% more? And then he justified it, because he did explain it in full detail about where that all came from. And I went, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, I wasn't, and my message to Gary was, for God's sake, in the future, just communicate with us. Just tell us that you're having to do this extra over and above, so we're aware of it, so we don't get to this problem at the end. So again, we're making sure that we've got this is internal controls. This comes from auditing, which I excelled in at college. I came out of auditing with a distinction in auditing, and in taxation, and in management accounting. See, all these different things that actually the experience and expertise actually comes right into what we do here. Management accounting is all about the key performance indicators and making sure you get the right returns. Auditing is all about internal control and making sure you don't get ripped off. Taxation is all about being very tax efficient with your money and actually getting the best deals out of the tax system, and proper tax planning rather than what is tax evasion, which is illegal. So it's the proper tax planning. So it's all these things I excelled in at college that I actually now use that skill set today. But I would never excelled in anything unless I had failed businesses and failed opportunities and sometimes successful ones, but all the knowledge I've developed from books and effectively, you call them podcasts, but I call them tapes, because I was listening to tapes in my car. Cassette tapes, that's what they are. And I've still got all these cassette tapes from all these successful people from America and that. And folk at that time, when I was listening to these tapes, used to go, Americans, I wouldn't want to listen to them. And I was, hey, if they can teach me something how to be successful and how to retire early and wealthy, I'm going to listen to them. So almost at one point, I was speaking with an American accent because I've listened to them that much. So it is about having a great team and a good management agent and leaving you free to concentrate on finding your next property or maybe simply enjoying life. I enjoy life by what I do. I am what I do. And most people go, you shouldn't really be defined like that. It's like, no, I love that. It's just me. It's just what I do.
And that might not be the same for everyone. I mean, people might think that, like, you talk about getting time back to enjoy life and things, and they might say to you, well, but you still work a lot. But you do
I still work a lot, but I
do what
do
you
what I
enjoy.
want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah.
I can happily just stop right now, never do anything for the rest of my life, and still have money coming in, and still have that income, and actually still have all the wealth intact. Because at a tipping point where you've actually got over that now. There's the hill, and now it's all down. Now I wouldn't say it's all downhill, but now it's all forever.
You're not fighting uphill now. Do you know what I mean?
Even if the legislation then turns around one day and the government says we're going to take all your properties back and buy them all back and take them all off you, I would still be wealthy. It wouldn't make any difference. It wouldn't make any difference.
You're not fighting up the hill anymore. You're on the other side. I know what you mean. Like,
that's effectively it, and that's the most important thing. Let's talk about growing your portfolio.
Yes.
After you've rented out your first buy-to-let, it's time to sit and review the ups and downs of your journey so far. Once you've done your first buy-to-let, you'll get the bug, because then you'll understand it. I was absolutely right. That's how you should be doing it. It's like, because people go, it can't be that simple. It can't be that simple. And it's the very fact that you're telling yourself it can't be that simple. It's not that simple for you, but it is that simple. It is literally a numbers game for buy-to-let. And then there's people involved. And that's where the masterclass in customer service comes in, because we're in the service business. So you get the numbers right, and you get that, and then you get the people involved, and then you get the customer service, and then the world's your oyster. It'll run all the time. It is a boring business, but boring pays well, as Keith Cunningham says. So this will help the buy-to-let and sit and review your ups and downs, and this will help grow your skills and learn by your mistakes. Don't learn by your mistakes. Learn by my mistakes. Just learn all the mistakes that I made and say, I'm not going to do that. You know, my children still do this, by the way. It's like, sometimes they'll learn by mistakes. Sometimes they'll just go, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do it as well. And they do it and go, funny, I got the same answer as you, Dad. And it's like, well, I did tell you not to do it that way. It's like, it's the height of ignorance, isn't it? Doing the same thing day in, day out, but expecting a different result every single time. It's like, no, if you do the same thing day in, day out, you're going to get the same result every single day. It's never going to change unless you change one of the dynamics. That's it in a nutshell. So learn from your mistakes and your lucky breaks and use the experience when you're buying your next property. But how do you get them? How do you get the money for your next deposit? That's really what it comes down to. The usual route is wait for the value of your first buy-to-let to increase, then release it through equity to cover the deposit for the next one. I was extremely lucky. Luck is involved in a wee bit in this, but it is labour under correct knowledge. And the fact that property prices were going hugely up in the early 2000s, so quick that I was buying them at a low value, and that hit. And then I just realised the opportunity to, if I refinance them, take that money back out, reinvest it, I could buy another property that earns money. Now, refinancing them means that I would have less of an income on the one I'm refinancing, but it allows me to have more income on another one. And the more the wealth has developed and the appreciation over the long time. So the more units you have, the more money you'll make when a rising. I mean, if you've got $1 million, this is why a lot of these investors go, I've got a £5 million portfolio in 3 months. And everybody goes, aye, but the bank owns most of that. And yeah, that's absolutely right. The bank does own most of that. But I tell you what, in the next 20 years, when that doubles in value, you've made $5 million.
Yeah.
And I used to be jokingly, I never used to joke with people, but everybody else used to think it was a joke. I used to say, I'll show you how to be a millionaire in 10 years easily and still do your own job and still not really get involved in it at all. Well, how would you do that? Well, have you got 100,000? Yeah, I've got 100,000. Okay, so you get £10,000 deposits on every single property. You buy 10 units at 100,000 each because you were getting 90% loan to value at that time. Then you wait, you look after. So in other words, you look after the property and you get somebody moved in, you pay the rent and all the rest of it, and you get the numbers to work. And then in the next 10 years, the property doubles in value. If it did, then you've made £1 million on the £1 million of property you've got. But even if you made 500,000, who cares? It's 500,000.
Yeah.
What you bought, even if you made 200,000, you wouldn't have made 200,000 on it before.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. That's how a lot of people do it. You have to weather the storms, though. You have to make sure you've got enough cover to weather the storms, and that is basically cutting back and no growing your lifestyle and your day-to-day living to a point where every single penny that comes in is actually spent. In other words, for your car payment, for your mortgage payment, for your electricity, for your gas, for your gardener, things like that, and all the your new kitchen that you got on finance, your credit card that you're paying off, that's stuck at a different level, and that's broke at a different level, by the way. There's lots of people out there that are rich, and we talk about this quite a lot. There's a lot of people out there that are rich, and rich is when you're actually earning more money than someone else, and you're richer, but you're not wealthier. You've just got more debt and more obligations with that same amount of money that you're earning more than someone else. It's like the guy that said, was greeting on Question Time, and he was going, "Oh, I can't survive on this." And everybody, "Well, what are you surviving on?" He said, "We're only getting £160,000 a year income." Sorry? And the whole audience just sat flabbergasted. This guy was greeting it. He couldn't get a wage rise, and he was on him and his wife was on £160,000 a year.
That's crazy.
What? You're on a different planet, pal. Yeah. It's like people would kill for that. But he had mortgaged his life up so much with borrowing and debt that he needed to maintain that in order to survive. You see what's happening now, all the strikes?
Yeah.
That's exactly what all the people that are out in the picket lines are in. They're in that poverty trap. Imagine being in a poverty trap earning £168,000 a year, and you're in a poverty trap. What?
That's just kind of, that's quite hard to
genuinely broke at a different level. That's what these people are. Your idea, your money coming in is what do I invest in first, and then what do I spend next. Not what do you spend and then what do you invest, what you got left. It's the other way around. So the usual route, wait till your buy-to-let increases. You can speed up the process. Another approach from other investors or landlords or clubs or network groups to fund the deposit. In other words, you can bring other people in exchange for the time and sourcing your property. So you could actually also source property as well. This is why the people that do the multiple streams of income that Rob Moore teaches, he says, look, give up your job completely. You can have multiple streams of income because what you can do is you can teach people and charge them money. You can also source property for people and charge them money. You can, all these different things. It's like, I didn't want to go from a job to a job.
Yeah, it's basically replacing.
I want to get out of my job. I want to have my time. I want to have my time back. I don't want another job. So my advice to people that are thinking about that is just grind it out in your existing job now, because it's certainty and you've got it all the time anyway. Even though you don't like it, it's only going to be temporary anyway. At some point in time, you're going to tell your boss to piss off. That's the reality. It's like, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I loved my work in manufacturing, and the day I left, everybody, God, we've lost Jim. That's how you want to leave a company.
Yeah,
we've lost Jim, as if they've lost something seriously bad. Like really bad. They've lost this resource. That's how you want to leave a company, where people talk about you as if to say, like, wow, wasn't you great? You don't want to leave a company where everybody goes, thank God you left.
Yeah, we'll find a better person to fill your spot. Yeah,
that's how you want to leave a company. You want to leave a company. And the day I actually retired and I did the speech with everyone, I loved that day. And I said, I've got mixed emotions, and everybody thought I was going to, I'm upset and all the rest of it. And one of them is joy, and one of them is happiness. I've got mixed emotions, joy and happiness. And I gave him a gold watch. I had a huge plan in my mind to actually take my alarm clock out the back garden and blowing it up, but I couldn't get explosives at that time, so I just smashed it out with a hammer. But we'll talk about that in the wealth creation show, actually, in a bit more detail about how we did that. So you can speed up that process by actually doing all these things. If your equity builds enough in one property, you could choose to sell it and buy two smaller other ones. I've done that as a strategy. I've actually, the equity is so much in these. I've got this locked in. I can't release it. So that and because we were both getting the capital gain allowance, my wife and I, for tax planning, we were getting £25,000 a year. So I could get a £25,000 allowance, first of all. Now, capital gains is actually disappearing by this April. It's going down to 6,000, I think it is, and then it's going down to like 3,000.
Eventually, it'll just not even be there.
Yeah, it'll not exist, but it was very tax efficient planning, because I was using that every single year to transfer out our name into a limited company. So I was actually keeping the tree that bears the fruit. I was actually just using my capital gains, because I had so much gains on the property in our name that I was transferring them every now and again, every year, using Elaine and I's capital gains allowance to do that.
Yeah, and then reinvest in equity into other property.
Rather than actually sitting saying, "Oh, I'm going to pay a fortune in tax," it's like, well, it's come home to roost with some landlords, because they've sat in with the fear they've frozen for that. and it's come home to roost with them. I know a lot of landlords in that difficult position now, because capital gains is disappearing.
Yeah,
the allowance. So equity builds up. You might want to do it, and you'd be able to use all the equity rather than having to leave 25% into satisfying a mortgage lender. You could also use forced appreciation with buy at really low values, what I did in the beginning, refurbish, then refinance, and rent model. So then you rent as well. So it's called BRRR, and I coined a phrase which everybody actually picks up now. It's called rinse and repeat.
Yeah, we've done a previous show.
I used to call it rinse and repeat, like the washing machine principle. It's just rinse and repeat, and it's like it doesn't really mean anything at the heart of it, but it means it's just do it again and again and again and again and again, and it's the same formula every single time.
Yeah, you'll find one of our previous shows on the playlist, which is buy, revamp, rent, repeat, and it's basically that.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. And you could also start saving a considerable amount of money from your day-to-day expenses and salaries and put towards more deposits. Mm-hmm. Again, another thing I did. The list is endless how to be creative at this and how to do this. Either if you get money, things like money for my birthday and money for my Christmas, I even put that in. It's like I've got no desire to do it other than reinvest all the time and actually make it work for me. Make money work. Make money work for you. It's not there, and then it could be there to be reinvested anyway. But more importantly, just make it work for you. Don't let it sit and do nothing. You're literally not limited by the equity in your first buy to let to get started in your next. But make sure you carry out your due diligence on anyone you go into business with. I've never had any desire to go into business with anybody. I went into somebody's business with somebody once, and he was absolutely fantastic in the beginning. But the difficult for me is the compromise and having to discuss with everybody else the decisions that you make. And I've had loads and loads of private investors approach me and say, any chance that you could invest in your company or invest in it? It's like, nah. You don't. You only, and Branson, I think, was the one that taught me this. And he says, you only get somebody to work into business with if you need one of two things. You need their capital or you need their expertise.
Yeah, their experience. Yeah, their expertise of them.
I can get a bank to finance me any single time. I have got track record. I've got huge amounts of wealth. So it's easy for me to get a bank. So I don't need anybody's capital. And to be honest, I can buy expertise every single time. Yeah. So I don't need somebody's expertise to go into business with in order to have a decision, because their life could change. And I have seen it happen with some of my friends where they went joint venture with people and the other person's life changed and they had to sell the property. They had to chop down the tree that bears the fruit because they couldn't afford to buy them out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe they couldn't have started in the first place, so it was a blessing in disguise. But every single time it's never worked for them. Every single time that people have joint ventured, it's never really worked, unless they're still joint venturing today. The most successful pair is Mark and Rob. Mark Homer and Rob Bear. Mm-hmm. They two together. That's the most successful pair I know that go into the business, but each specialise in their own areas.
So they've joined up their expertise and things.
But look at Cardone. Cardone doesn't invite any business partners in for him. Richard Branson doesn't invite any business partners in for him. Alan Sugar doesn't have any business partners in for him. Maybe he has investors, but they're armchair investors and they have no decisions in how he runs his business.
Yeah.
And literally, if you can get the capital from the bank and you could buy the skill, then don't go into it. It sounds great going into business with your best pal, but just be aware at your best pal at some point in time, or we'll find another partner. We'll find a partner, and that's the person you're having to go into business with as well. That's another thing. So, and the one for me was pillow talk. It's like, what happens with our partner. It's like how they influence their partner and that person could eventually change and
their mindset could change, or their path in life could change.
And your vision of long-term wealth and long-term growth is completely thrown out, because this person gets to a point where they say, I'm wanting to take the money now.
Mm-hmm.
I want the money. I want a life. They change themselves by their experiences and where they are. So that's the sort of, if you formalize it in a contract and get it done right, then fair enough. But that's one you've got to really watch out for. So you're really not limited by the equity in your first buy to let. I also used investments. So investments, I had endowments and I used them as a bond to get 100% lending from a bank. and I still do that now and again. I sometimes get 100% lending from the bank. So I put no money in at all, and the bank uses my existing investments and equity in order to finance that. So the bank finance 100%, but I'm just using my existing stuff that's in my portfolio anyway. So I get, and I'm going to get 100% lending again on the one I'm getting. That's mental, eh? 100% lending every single time. I'm not using anybody else's money except the banks. So due diligence, go into business, protect yourself and protect yourself in a contract drafted by a solicitor. Remember to use a solicitor, for God's sake. See the amount of people I've got something online, or it's on wills.co.uk or Simply Docs or something like that, and that's fine, because some of them are actually properly done. But the devil is in the detail, and that's where a solicitor can protect you every single time. Remember, they've done it so many times. There's now your mainstream, one-man band solicitor are not going to be able to do that. You're going to go have to somebody like Lindsay's or somebody like McDonald's, some big solicitor firm who have specialists in these areas, and they specialize in contract law, they specialize in buy-to-let law, they specialize in all these different areas. Your mainstream, just like accountants as well. You need an accountant in a bigger firm to actually have a specialist in buy-to-let tax. You need an accountant. Your mainstream, general accountant does your books day to day, but they don't specialize in it. They don't have the time to do that. It's like GPs as well. Your general doctor can do normal GP practice, but they don't specialize in pediatrics. They don't specialize in ear, nose, and throat. They don't specialize in surgery or anything like that. They have to send you to someone to do that. So that's exactly the same as how this investment strategy works. You have to get specialists in each area.
Well, individuals in each sector who specialize in doing certain things.
Let's finish off there, and I can answer my questions on TikTok once this is all off.
I think really just to finish off, I mean, obviously, if you're ready to start to grow your lettings portfolio and things, we have helped a lot of landlords, investors build, popular, profitable, sustainable lettings portfolios. And if you would like us to give you a hand doing that, or any advice in doing that, or indeed to point you in the direction of the right people to speak to help you do that, then by all means, obviously, message us direct. Jim gave you my email earlier. I'd be more than happy to speak to anyone on that, or give us a ring. And
it's in the post, actually. It's in these posts. It's not.
It's in the post on the.
There's limited what we can get on TikTok and Instagram. Actually, I'll be able to put it on Instagram in a wee minute. And once I switch the live off, it allows me to do it. But TikTok's actually quite difficult because they've only got a limited amount of information on there. So drop Richard an email at richard.cook@fifeproperties.co.uk for more information or any advice on what you need to do next. But basically, hopefully, you've worked out that buy-to-let is still extremely viable if you get the numbers right, and it makes absolute sense for you. And we'll see you on the Wealth Creation Show. Wealth Creation Show, 12:30 on Monday. We'll be going live on TikTok, Instagram, all the different channels here. Fife Properties TV on your YouTube channel as well. And again, we'll be talking about probably my final part of my journey and my buy-to-let for my first million at that point in time. But we're maybe actually going to go into how I lost $1 million.
That'll be interesting.
How I lost $1 million. It's like, you can imagine me talking about how I lost $1 million. Listen, Keith Cunningham, I remember actually his workshop. I remember a foreign currency trader who was actually really experienced and knows exactly what he's doing. But he said that, within a year, I'd lost 500 million. What? Did you say that again? Within a year, I'd lost 500 million. But I'll tell you how I got it back. And he showed me how the next year he had 600 million. It's like, this is just a game. These people know exactly. It's a game. They understand how to play the game, and it works every single time. So you imagine the amount of knowledge and expertise and you could actually understand from someone at that level, where they could actually just happily, they lose 500 million, and then the next year
hold it back up again.
Million back. It's like, how is that? Now, it's not getting it from someone else. It's actually through foreign currency and how to do it. So if I never did buy-to-let, I'd be a foreign currency trader like Greg Secker, more than likely. Because they, it really floats my boat, because it's all about seeing patterns. It's all about seeing patterns of behavior, and that's how buy-to-let works as well. It's all about seeing the patterns of behavior in the market and seeing where it's going and what's happening. Hence the reason why people, we have a very successful Edinburgh company that actually spoke to me yesterday and said, Jim, we just see you as the guru. It's like, this is another letting agency that actually call me the guru, and it's like, what does that say about your letting agency? It's a bit weird to understand, but you just learn that over time, and this is all about, again, books, podcasts, going to the right workshops with the right people, learning from the right people as well. Anyway, we'll digress from there, and we'll talk about it more on the Wealth Cage Show at 12:30 on Monday.
Yeah, I was just going to say Monday 12:30, and thanks for that today, Jim.
Until next time, guys. It's bye-bye from us.
Okay.